Speaking of real estate, has the Twitter suspension in Nigeria affected the real estate market in any way? Over the weekend, a number of players in the real estate sector got together on Clubhouse, another social media platform, to discuss the impact of the suspension. One of those players is here with us right now, Ayo Ibaru, Chief Operating Officer, Director of Research at North Court Real Estate, joining us now to discuss further. Ayo, thank you so much for joining us. First time having you in the studio, huh?
I wonder what I did right.
Hey, no, right, yeah. COVID restrictions have reduced. So I want to start with the market. There was a Financial Times article that profiled the Lagos.
Yes.
So what is it? Is thriving the right word to use for the Lagos luxury real estate market?
Okay, so last year, Q2, we observed that, due to COVID restrictions and because people couldn't travel and they couldn't even make plans to travel, at least for the foreseeable future, they had a lot of money in their hands. And if you look at the Financial Times article, which of course, in a way, piggybacked on what we wrote in our report, you will find that we saw the increase in demand of luxury real estate apartments. And so the numbers kept going up and it peaked at about Q3 and then started to stabilize at Q4. Again, we know that the luxury market tends to operate on different rules. When it comes to Nigeria's real estate market, they don't just function according to how standard residential markets behave.
Okay, yep. So if you were to if one was to describe the attitude of the buyers, yeah. What's the word to use to describe them, or is it just as you said, demand was pent up?
I mean, typically, the buyers look for where they can park funds and where they can, because, real estate is used as a store of value.
Right.
And then what they want to do is be sure that they can have a place to keep their money and then, of course, convert to liquid cash later. But I think part of what informed their behavior came from what happened around the NSAS protests, where, we saw, of course, after that, we saw vandalizations and the need for security became paramount. And one of the first things we saw, even in the luxury market, was that private communities started to go up. So if you check now, price per square meter for land in the general Ikoyi area is at a certain level, 550, 600,000, depending on who you're talking to. But if you go further into the Banana Island area, then you go into even further private estates, you see that it goes even as high as 1,100, if I remember my numbers correctly, per square meter, 100,000 naira per square meter. So, I mean, the numbers, oh yes, I remember the figures now. So,
go right ahead.
550,000, because when I was told the numbers, even I didn't believe it. It sounded really absurd.
Right,
yeah.
right.
So it was 550, 600 outside, but then as you move into private estates, you go into about 1 million.
Okay, so
they did that because they saw that, one, we could go into another lockdown, and two, the chances of security breaches might seem more possible than before, even though, as far as the Lagos State system is concerned, we have a better security record than most of the country. So a lot of investment comes in here. That's why you have people able to push that kind of demand.
Incredible. So is it disconnected from the economic realities of the rest of the country? That is the luxury real estate market.
Yeah, so I don't think the luxury real estate market ever was connected to the economic realities. No, I mean, okay. I'm not trying to be flippant here. I'm just saying,
right.
Yeah, because, I mean, after you've done economic activities to a certain level, or you've gotten funds from other places, which I hope we shall discuss later,
yes, yeah.
You do get to a point where you can afford to buy certain assets. And, we'll probably go into the vacancy rates and things of that nature. So I think maybe I'm pushing it a bit too far by saying that, they're not connected. They are in some way, shape, or form, because they're still under the government of Nigeria, things like that. But I mean, in the end, it's just a business decision typically.
All right. Now, before we get into vacancy rates, I have to ask you about the
I knew you would bring that up.
Corruption, right? Abdul Rashid Bawa, the head of the Economic and Financial.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I watched that. It was sad.
It was on TV.
He said
80 to 90% of London money in Nigeria goes into real estate. So I have to get your reaction to that charge that he made.
Okay, so internationally, and I read a few reports from the EU and then, of course, from agencies in the United Kingdom. Real estate is used to launder money internationally. I mean, in Canada, Vancouver is the suspect location. In the UK, people look at London. in India, people move towards Dubai and towards Mumbai and New Delhi. So he does have a point that real estate is used to launder funds. But what I think he should have done was maybe gotten his handlers to get him more information, because funds coming from a number of places, from construction, from people who work in the construction industry, from energy, from finance, from even real estate, and people work really hard to get funding, to put into real estate investment. And some of them, they work for 10, 20, 30 years. So I think the statement maybe was a bit too misguided, and I'll probably just send him a copy of our research report coming out this Friday. I'll probably send him a hard copy and I'll sign it so that, he might just read and maybe get a few things. Because what that also does, trying to be a bit serious now, is that it takes us back to about 2017, 2016, when it was really difficult getting international investment, because if someone of that stature is saying things like that, it just means that the international community has one more reason to say no to me when I go shopping for investment.
Right.
And that's why you really don't say things like that. Then again, the sheer illogicality of saying 80 to 90% of laundered funds. That means 9 out of every 10 transactions
is laundered.
And
right.
Even if he were correct, which by no stretch of the imagination is he correct, we have the Money Laundering Prohibitions Act of 2011 that has a raft of things that you have to look out for. And a lot of estate firms go through the eye of the needle to ensure that we get that SCOMO certificate. And if you come into my office, the Lagos head office of North Scott Real Estate, you come in, first thing you see on your left is our framed SCOMO certificate, because they took us through hell to get that thing done, and we do it. So players in the real estate market are doing a lot to ensure that we take this industry from where it was, to where we see it now, where we find investments coming in, especially into the short-let market. But when you're saying things like that, it makes things unbearably difficult. I don't think you should talk like that, personally. All
right, that's why we brought you on, to have you address that. So vacancies, real estate market and vacancies, because in the end, it kind of throws off the whole supply-demand equation when you've got vacancies, meaning there's an excess supply, but yet the prices are still, So how do you address the vacancies that we're seeing?
Okay, so the researchers who work so hard, just brought in the final figures yesterday. So we will be publishing again the reports this Friday, and we'll send it out free. It's on our website. But I believe you're talking about the Ikoyi market, because that's where people generally want to know. Now, we had this conversation severally, and we had discussed it, and we tend to argue back and forth. Once someone can afford to buy a house in Ikoyi, most likely the person has something in London, has something in the US, in Canada, and they can afford to keep those houses open. Now, I do know that there was a representative from the UN who came and said that you need to tax empty.
Yes. Leilani Farah, she was the former UN representative for affordable housing. So yes.
When you listen to that, it almost begs the question, you're almost taxing me for leaving my car park empty. Because I didn't park my car there.
Yes.
Now, that now makes more sense if, people got their funds through, underhanded means. Then you can say, okay, let's start taxing them. And I think that was where she was coming from. Because if you read maybe the first 20 pages of what she wrote, she was alluding towards the fact that there was quite a bit of corruption, and so we need to tax it. Because in her mind, from what I read, she doesn't think that many people, put in the effort to get these assets. That's why you can talk like that. But if you did the work to get these assets, then taxing it because it's empty is maybe a bit too draconian, and we might want to discuss that further.
Fantastic.
That's what I think.
Great stuff. I quickly want to get to your clubhouse, and I was supposed to be a part of that, and unfortunately I couldn't make it because
that was a blast.
Thank you. So it does. There it is. So that's the flyer there with you and a number of other real estate folks. Does the Twitter ban? Because some folks were like, how is the Twitter ban affecting real estate? So please go ahead. Did the Twitter suspension in any way affect? How would they have had an impact on the real estate market?
Okay, so there are two ways to look at this. I'll start with what I consider the easier way, which is the local perspective. So, people who invest in Nigeria's real estate market, locals, we have what they call the home country buyers. So we know that whatever happens in the country, we can always find a way around it. We are closer to things that are going on. There's information asymmetry. We can make right decisions. We know who to talk to. I can call Ayo. Ayo can tell me what to do. So I can find a way around whatever new trick the government throws. So this, for us, is just one more curveball we've had to
get around. Yeah.
Now, what it also does is it makes assets cheaper. You see, because when you make announcements like this, Western investors particularly are interested in how you talk, what you do with free speech. And what that means is they will exit. And when they exit with their professional management, and in comes Eastern investments, Asia and all of that, with Eastern style management, and that puts the pressure on commercial level rents. Now what that does is when it pushes the rents down, in a way it makes it easy for a number of people to come in, and then the quality of the asset starts to suffer because that appreciation for professional management isn't there. But I think one of the biggest things the Twitter ban did was it just convinced the international community that we are not ready to attract investment. I mean, look at Ghana just next door. They now have the Africa Continental Free Trade Zone Agreement head office.
Right.
They have Twitter's head office.
Right.
And what did they do to the president's tweets, really? They
just deleted it.
And the truth is, you see, so Jack Dorsey was at the congressional hearings for the regulation of social media in Q3 of last year and Q1 of this year. And at the end of the day, he agreed that, yes, because of the Capitol building riots, Twitter might be used to cause some kind of riot. So he agreed. And you see, when a company like that agrees and you still treat them this way, what you're doing is you're telling other international organizations that the rule of law doesn't mean anything. And what that does is, again, it makes it difficult for us to raise funding. It makes it difficult for us to attract investment. So it has discouraged the international market a bit, but the locals are seeing it as an opportunity to step up to the plate and see how they can execute more investments. And we're seeing that. For example, in the residential real estate market, short lets is really moving fast. We have people building, at least in the CBDs. They're going really quickly.
Yeah.
The land market is stable. We see it resilient despite what's going on. Logistics, is learning, of course, from COVID that it is critical to retail's functioning, and that is pushing a lot of energy into grade A retail, right, which is keeping them from going bankrupt. I even hear now that they are getting close to pre-pandemic levels in terms of at least their income and their revenue levels. So internationally, it's not a good sign. Some people say we are moving towards a dictatorship. That's how they put it, and that's not good. Once you start touching free speech, you say a lot of things, but then again, Eastern money will come in, and that has its various dynamics.
Fantastic. Got less than a minute to go. What's your outlook, I guess, for the rest of the year going into 2022? We're halfway through 2021 already for real.
Okay, so I will try to speak by sub-market. I think grade A office will continue to struggle. Their rents will come under pressure. They still charge in dollars. And I know they've cut some deals with a number of firms, but that can't hold out for too long. I know that, there's a blue chip international tech firm that was going to take up more space in Ikoyi, but once they heard the Twitter ban, they put a pause on that, right? And, it's almost as if Twitter was prescient and they knew what was going to happen. I think logistics is going to expand. I know grade A developers are stepping into that market and doing really well.
Okay.
I know residential will do well. Hospitality will continue to struggle as we go into third wave, the Delta virus and Delta variant, and things of that nature. But I think in all, we will be good. We will be good.
Fantastic stuff. Yeah. Ayo Ibaru, CEO, Director of Research at Northcore Real Estate. Thank you so much for joining us. Illustrative, in-depth discussion.
Thank you for having me.